Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Las Vegas. It's so nice to see you all. Thank you for making some time to spend with us today. Welcome to Las Vegas. Hope you've had a good morning so far. It's a little chilly outside. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm dressed like this. More to come on that. So my name is Michael Schmidt. I look after industry partnerships, and together with Ryan Thomas, we're looking forward to spending some time talking about all things Agentic AI, but we're going to specifically take a tack when we're going to talk about industry and what people are really doing with it. I think you're going to find some really interesting stories that we're going to talk through today. So let's get into it. We represent the partner organisation at AWS, and specifically our team focuses on line of business and what customers are really doing in industry. Our team looks sort of ahead, 6, 12, 18 months ahead. It's like, what are the transitions? What's going on in industry? What are customers doing? Specifically right now, of course, we're talking a lot about AI and what we're seeing in the market right now and what customers are asking for in the future. And again, today we're going to talk through some really specific use cases and stories that I'm hoping that you'll be able to learn from. Okay, so you don't have to look far for talk about AI. It is in the popular media. Our families are talking about it. The newspapers are talking about it. For those of you who live in the United States, you probably talked about it over Thanksgiving in the last couple of weeks, yes? It's making its way into popular media. So there's things like the Velvet Sundown, AI-generated music on Spotify that's become very popular. People have heard about Tilly Norwood, was launched at the Zurich Film Festival this year, AI-generated talent. It is a controversial topic, it is an interesting topic, it is a fascinating topic, but it never before in my lifetime has a technology transition been so public in the public eye and in the popular narrative. It's pretty much everywhere, whether it's being a doomsday prediction or a model update or a meme, it is everywhere we look right now. So, it has been fascinating in the last couple of years, really in the last 12 months, since reInvent last year, the rate of change and the pace of innovation. Initially with generative AI, it was more reactive. So you give it a prompt, you ask it a question, it gives you a response, whether that's a line of code, a piece of text, a picture. It's reactive, it's stateless, but yet powerful. And then we saw the emergence of early AI agents, which leveraged reasoning frameworks to make more sophisticated outcomes and produce more sophisticated responses. The early agents were still primarily used for simple, well-defined tasks. But as they've evolved over the last year, we've seen a transition into fully autonomous multi-agent systems that can seamlessly execute multi-step processes and solve multi-step problems. They're capable of tackling more complex problems using real-world use cases, and we're going to talk a number about those as we talk today. This has primarily been driven by a couple of fundamental shifts in our industry. And the content of this presentation has evolved just over the last 6 weeks. I can't remember a time in my time in this industry where the topic of a presentation and the content for a presentation can change so much in the last 6 weeks before reInvent, just because of the rapid rate of change that we're seeing in the industry. It's crazy. So the advancements in the models are astounding. In the last 12 months and even in the last 6 months, we've gone from foundational models where they are able to provide reactive responses and quality responses, insightful responses, to proactive models that can reason, reflect, observe, and act. So, difference being, when you ask a simple foundational model 12 months ago, I'm looking for a date and a time to go hiking on Mount Fuji, it could tell you that the weather's going to be good on Wednesday. But more proactive agentic models now will tell you, yes, the weather's going to be good on Wednesday. I've noticed that your fitness has been strong the last couple of weeks, so this route might be appropriate for you. You may want to consider these suppliers. The weather window is short, so you may want to be considering turning around by 12 o'clock. again, far more sophisticated compound analysis and proactive responses that are unprecedented from where we were 12 months ago. So we're going to talk through a number of things today and a number of different stories. It's going to be very practical. I think that's what you're going to like the most about this. We're going to touch on so many customer stories that you're going to find insightful. So to set the scene for us, a couple of people have asked me to make them a cafe latte already this morning. So Ryan, can you please tell me, why am I dressed like this?
It's the question we all want to know. So thank you. So as my boss Michael set the stage with all of the technical jargon and the evolution of FMs, I get to be the one. We're in Las Vegas. Welcome to Ryan and Michael's circus. I want to tell you a story that probably many of you know. And I'm going to kind of set the stage for what we're seeing, some of the trends we're seeing in AI, for what differentiates our partners and customers from being successful and less successful, from growing their top line and reducing costs to just incurring cumbersome, more and more technology, more and more complexity that's not driving value. And I want to tell you about the circus. In the 70s, the circus was a booming industry. In fact, it was one of the top family live entertainment places that we would take your family. And over time, as we got into the 80s, we started to see sports teams, concerts create a more family-oriented experience, and the circus business started to decline. Enter a whole new business strategy for the circuses. Ringling Brothers and all of the others went out and they hired the top talent. They went out and they said, what's going to differentiate us is Bozo and this clown and that clown. And we started to enter the golden age of clowns, where clowns were demanding top salaries. They were the highest paid for performers, outpacing acrobats and jugglers and animal acts, and getting to a point where they were becoming the front of the circus. In fact, it was how the circus was going to market. It was how they were trying to create the customer experience that they thought their customers wanted. But circus revenues continued to decline, and their costs went up. And the clowns were not only taking money that could have been spent for other performers, but taking the money that those businesses could have been using to invest in a better product, in a better customer experience, and really, quite frankly, devolving the customer experience by spending more and more money on the clowns. It wasn't until two Canadian brothers, who I'm sure we all know, French-Canadian brothers, came along and created this blue ocean strategy. And they said, we're going to reinvent the circus industry. We're going to go out untainted by competition, and we're going to reinvent what we think our customers want to see. They went out and said, we're going to hire what's suddenly available out there, the top acrobats. We're going to create a whole new performance. We're going to create a whole new scene, and we're going to bring families back to the circus and create a better customer experience. They've evolved that to today. If you've walked down the strip at all, anywhere, you've seen the water show. Oh, a whole new experience, multi-billion-dollar industry. Went from $1 billion when they started to $12 billion and a gigantic market share. They've reinvented themselves over and over and over, right here in Las Vegas and around the world. They've created the concert. They've taken over the live music events, and they've created one with the Beatles and other concerts and so on and so forth. And then they reinvented themselves just a few years ago. 35% of their market is now a brand new adults-only circus, transforming from the family-oriented to a whole new business model where they went from a 12 billion market to about a 16, 17 billion market. So what does this have to do with AI? Pick your favorite number. This week you're going to see all kinds of numbers. You're going to see trillions and quadrillions and everything else. One that Michael and I have globbed onto is in North America alone, somewhere around $4.5 trillion by 2030 from AI, and specific to a lot of the line of business industry specific use cases that our customers are evolving themselves and really using to transform their business. What's stunning, 2 years ago, this was zero. Last year, we were all talking about chatbots, talking about back and forth, as Michael said, some of the generative AI solutions. And now we're having a completely different conversation. We're talking about how do I achieve line of business outcomes using agentic and thinking completely different about those problems. We've moved from a world where I want to store data and I want to get my data ready for generative AI to a world where I'm using these agentic systems to think, decide, and act. 80% of customers, and this is a survey from McKinsey, have said that they've deployed some form of AI. Something has gone into production, something that they hope to materially move their business. But here's the catch. Only about a quarter of those have seen some benefit, which means, much like the circus, we have very few winners and a lot of, I don't want to say losers, but people that haven't seen the value, they haven't seen the growth, they haven't seen the targeted, desired outcomes that they had hoped to achieve. But here's the catch to that. Those that have seen the value, the quarter that have seen value, 45% average cost savings, 60% higher revenue growth, outpacing even the best case scenario for a lot of these customers, outpacing our partners who thought that they were going to grow in agentic and generative AI, driving outcomes that are well beyond what they had even hoped. I don't know. To pull the cliche back to the circus, you don't need more clowns. We need more engaged customers. But that creates a whole host of problems for our partners and our customers. So I'll turn it back over to Michael, who's going to give you a little bit more insight to that.
Thanks, Ryan. So I said before, there's a lot of excitement right now. A lot of anticipation, a sense of urgency. Enterprises, startups, governments, everybody is thinking we need to be doing something with AI. We need to be doing something. We should be doing something. But there is a high rate of failure. There's a high percentage of projects that are being pulled back and projects that don't end up going into production. So in one way, that's a good thing. In one way, it's a good thing. It means that people are experimenting and people are trying things and people are evaluating and modifying their thinking and reviewing and learning as they go. But what are the common traits of the workloads that are being successful? What are the traits of the projects that are being successful and are going to production? We're going to dig into some of that right now. For many of us, there's uncertainty. How far do I go? When will I see value? Will people use it? Will it be secure? Will it be reliable? But I have to do something. And that, that tension and anxiety is very real for a lot of people when they're thinking about, and a lot of organisations when they're thinking about their journey to AI. So, what are the trends that we're seeing with agentic AI? Certainly, the emerging trends, if we were to sort of categorise them in a few areas. Powerful multi-agent systems. We're going to talk you through some really cool examples of some powerful multi-agent systems today, and really to sort of get your mind thinking about how to think about what that really means. Hyper-personalisation is definitely centre to lots of great use cases that you'll hear and see about this week. Creating personalisation at a level that we've never seen before, whether that be through customer service or the media that people consume. Anywhere where there's a customer involved, hyper-personalisation is central to the conversation right now. Advanced memory. So models are developing extremely sophisticated knowledge bases to be able to commit things to memory, be able to learn from the mistakes and the successes that they have to be able to make better predictions, better decisions, and produce better outcomes in the long term. And of course, hybrid human interactions. So people have heard the term human in the loop, perhaps, where the integration of decision-making and workflows between humans and AI is extremely topical right now. Encouraging AI to make more and more decisions, and when AI makes better decisions, and you get to a point where perhaps a certain decision vector gets above a 90% success rate or a 95% success rate, then perhaps AI could be making that decision, and we focus on the 5% of exception cases. So being able to evolve a workflow and be able to improve a workflow as you integrate AI into a workflow is kind of the name of the game. Start small and conservative and evolve the thinking and the decision-making over time. We'll talk specifically about some of that in a minute. So what does that mean? In terms of value creation that people are seeing from AI, certainly three main areas. And again, you'll see these reflected in a number of the examples we're going to walk through today. Firstly, workplace productivity. That's certainly one that's been around for a while. Anybody who's used AI to generate documents, summarise documents, pull things together, generate code, all of those examples are very well known and something I'm sure all of you have experimented with. Workplace productivity goes a lot further though, improving workflows, reducing the number of, when it comes to business workflows, improving business workflows, cutting down the number of steps and stages in a workflow by using agentic is central to the foundational value proposition of what agentic is doing for us today. Incident management, there's a number of great stories that we quote internally about incident management. We use it internally in terms of managing our own infrastructure, being able to use AI to intelligently make decisions, remediate problems, again, very central to business workflows. Smart supply chain, demand forecasting, smart pricing. These are all workloads that are deeply entrenched in business workflows. Again, unlike any technology transition we've seen before. We'll go into that in some more detail. And of course, innovation and research. Research has really been massively transformed by what AI has been able to do for it. Whether it be complex federated models to be able to do deep data analysis, be doing advanced simulations, predictive medicine. The fields of innovation and research have been dramatically transformed by AI over the last couple of years, and especially the last 12 months. We're going to talk a little bit about the value proposition that is unique to industry. And what I can tell you is that industry to industry, the value proposition and the value that people are realising with AI is unique industry to industry. The use cases are often unique industry to industry. And I can say in my own experience, never before has there been a technical transition that has been so deeply embedded in the line of business. That is, in the business workflow, not just the technology. In the business transformation and in the business workflow is where business impact is made. And so, what I can tell you, and we'll talk about in terms of what's been successful and where we've learnt the most, is that those use cases that are deeply embedded in line of business are statistically the ones that have been the most successful, rather than the ones of like, oh, we should tool around with AI and see what we can do with it. While that's a fun experiment, those ones have not as quickly transitioned into ROI that we've seen in the ones closest to line of business. Okay. So we're going to talk about industry specifically, and what's the data showing us? What are we seeing in some of our industries? So first hypothesis is big organisations are moving faster than small ones. I don't think so. I think that all organisations have an opportunity and an appetite to move quickly, but particularly small organisations have often seen the opportunities to look at transformational uses of AI that perhaps have been missed by many others. I want to tell you a bit of a story. AI is transforming the construction industry. Construction industry is a big on process, and projects are incredibly complex. There are many, many moving parts. Scheduling elements of a project, whether it be scheduling of cranes, trucks, formwork, all of the things that go on a construction project are deeply intricate. And of course, how that overlays on labour forecasting, cost modelling, overtime management. Using agents to manage these elements of the workflow has been transformational in the construction industry. Not to mention P&L management. So if you can overlay those things against the management of your P&L for your project, and then do deep milestone analysis to be able to make trade-off decisions about elements of the construction. There's an enormous amount of ability to model and produce good outcomes by looking deep into your P&L and your project and make those key decisions to be able to meet that milestone or bring forward a milestone or assess risk against a milestone, both financially and otherwise. I was talking to a partner actually recently at an event, and they were talking about construction specifically. And one of the things he said to me, which really stuck with me, was he said, so we're doing all this stuff around milestone management and the P&L management and looking at the cost base and all that sort of stuff. He said, one of the funny things about concrete is it's pretty fundamental in construction. Concrete's a pretty key element. And he said, the thing about concrete, though, is concrete can only be made on certain days. It's very weather dependent. So he said, one of the things we did is we went out and we looked at an agent to help manage the forecast, the weather forecast, so that we could more accurately schedule concrete deliveries on certain days. He said, we have concrete jobs that are 3 days. We have concrete jobs that are 5 days. We have concrete jobs that are 1 day. We have labour requirements for all of those things, and we have prerequisites that we need certain things to be available. But we need to make sure that we need a 3-day weather window for a 3-day concreting job. So the weather agent can manage the short, medium and long-term weather forecast and be able to make dynamic interactions with the scheduling agents to be able to schedule the right labour, make sure the formwork's in place, and make sure the production managers are on site and ready for concrete deliveries. He said, the beautiful thing about that is, and again, I think one of the most undervalued things about Agentic AI is the composable nature of the architecture. That is, bringing in an extra factor, an extra autonomous decision-making process. It's just bringing in another agent. It's bringing in another agent or a different agent that has a specific, autonomous, contextually relevant, specialised use case. And I love this one because it's a nice, simple one that we can all kind of gravitate to. Another one that I really like is that, Agentic is all over the media entertainment industry. There's a lot happening in media entertainment with Agentic AI, and specifically, I was talking to a partner that was doing things with storyboarding and looking at production planning around storyboards, either for motion pictures or even in terms of advertising. Looking at being able to manage the production budget on a shot-to-shot basis, using agents to baseline the P&L of a production, look at trade-offs in using agents to managing casting trade-offs, what certain casting decisions are going to cost us at different times, whether I use an actor that's going to cost this much or that much, have relevance in this market versus that market, overlay against my sales strategy in this market versus that market, the appeal of that particular casting decision in that market in alignment with my sales strategy. Agents are ideal for this because they can take on these autonomous tasks and bring them together in terms of this deep analysis. They can make decisions about placement of, as I said, talent, but also can make decisions about placement of products, perhaps in a motion picture. They can also, we talk a lot about how agents are managing things in media entertainment to do with transposing audio, inserting local content, but also they can do things like profanity detection, which is key to compliance for media entertainment in specific markets. So you can't, profanity is not acceptable in certain markets and it is in others. You can use agents to do profanity detection and remediation in real time. Not to mention product placement, as I said before, or even celebrity detection. So many interesting uses on an industry-to-industry basis of what people are using agents for. So, the other thing I've heard is that AI is targeting jobs. Is AI targeting my job, Ryan?
I hope not, but let's talk through it.
Me too.
We named this section, what does the data show us? And Michael just showed us that a lot of small companies, like local construction companies, are taking advantage of AI and able to reinvent their businesses much more quickly. The other kind of hypothesis that we hear all the time talking to customers and partners is, how many people am I going to replace and how many jobs am I going to replace? It's a little bit misleading to think about AI like that. Michael talked a lot about human in the loop. He talked a lot about, not just supplementing humans, but kind of going the other way. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. What I want to show you, I'm going to show you three of our largest industries: automotive, energy, and financial services. And I'm going to talk through the number one use case where AWS is seeing, quite frankly, the highest revenue, where our partners are seeing the most change, and where our customers are actually innovating the fastest right now. Not to say that that'll be where it is in 6 months, but what you're going to see is each one of these is not necessarily a human job. It's about creating a better customer experience. It's about creating a better set of desired outcomes for the line of business and actually transforming where they're going. I'm going to start with automotive. The number one use case we see across the board, and quite frankly in all industrials, whether it's manufacturing a car, manufacturing a Nike shoe, or pharmaceutical manufacturing, is predictive maintenance. Companies are leaning more and more into the smart factory concepts. They're addressing fragmented data across multiple systems. They're dealing with the challenge of complex data integration between domains and people. And how do I get that into a natural language processing capability where I can actually make sense of this data, have AI supplement this, and get ahead of where something's going to break down. Today, AWS looks across our industrial customers. It's somewhere about 30% of their engineering time is spent just searching for data. How do I make a decision? Well, I need the data. How do I get to the data? I've got to spend time curating and pulling together structured and unstructured data, pulling that into one place. 30% of engineering time can now be used for other bigger, better, faster decisions and supplemented with AI. 50% of product development delays are caused by inaccessible knowledge scattered across the enterprise, meaning that product developers are trying to learn, they're trying to improve their smart factory floors, they're trying to evolve how they have humans on the floor and how they use robotics across the automation to produce products, now 50% faster. The outcome of this, more and more persona-based access to institutional knowledge, more and more intelligent decision-making, and that adds context-aware interactions with multimodal data. It adds advanced search and retrieval capabilities that weren't there before, and all of that adds up to predictive maintenance that wasn't there before. We're not replacing the humans, we're doing it much, much faster, much more accurately, and reducing our operational costs significantly because I'm not waiting until something breaks down and I have to stop the factory from producing something. I can get ahead of it, and I can start to think about how to prevent that from ever stopping manufacturing. Apply that same logic to energy. 2 years ago, we crossed the threshold where $1 spent on non-renewable energy sources and renewable energy sources crossed that point. And we're now almost at $2 spent on every renewable resource versus 1 in the world. And that number continues to accelerate. And what that's driving is a whole new set of use cases around distributed energy resource management. How do I predict what utility providers can provide to, on power grid, on the power grids that they provide and the management to their users? How can I give 100% of renewable energy to those that are willing to pay for it and a whole new generation of consumers that want that in their homes? How do I think about dynamic pricing? Pricing for peak, off-peak, pricing for when I have wind or solar or hydro. How do I think about that in a whole different way? Agentic is a perfect set of use cases. We're seeing this rapid adoption in Europe. We're starting to see it catch up in Asia and even a little bit here in the US. What this has done is it's given utility and power companies the ability to address customer concerns that they were never able to address before. And finally, financial services, the one that probably most of you work in. By far, the most traction we've seen from retail banks, capital markets, payments companies, credit card companies, credit unions, KYC, AML, financial fraud, financial crime, detecting that in seconds, replacing a process that used to take days or months to track down, to stop, to go and get ahead of. Large institutions like Bridgewater, Morgan Stanley, JPMC, and others have really set expectations with their customers that they're going to detect that now. They're going to stop it now. And that identification is happening in near real time to identify potential fraud and remediate it, whether it's cross-border payments or just somebody who's taken your credit card, stolen your identity, and is trying to buy a pair of shoes that isn't you. And my favorite use case, anybody in JFK Terminal 4 just yesterday? I was. Literally the slowest and worst terminal in the country. The data does not show us that, that's my opinion. You can quote me on that one. Just a year ago, anybody that went through Terminal 4, it was the new one, it was where Delta set up their national hub, and it was remarkably slow. The security lines were unbearable, and it made travel in and out of New York just really a painful process. Over the last year, I was just there yesterday, which is supposed to be one of the busiest days of the year, went right through security. Anybody that was there hopefully saw the same thing. And what's transformed it? What's transformed it is a massive net of agents controlling everything from security lines to the app that you all probably have on your phone, whether it's Delta or United, now showing you the best security line, where to go, if TSA is a faster line or Clear is a faster line. And one of my favorite use cases is now how to get through the airports. If you need a luggage cart, if you need a wheelchair or other mobile accessory for a person that needs additional assistance, the app can now show you, using a couple of our partners' technology, exactly where those carts are, where those wheelchairs are, and predict how long of a wait you have to go from. It knows exactly where you are, and it knows where you need to go, and it can schedule all of that for you without you having to talk to a rep, without you having to call anybody or even click anything on an app. It knows that you need that, and it's scheduling that all ahead of schedule. So with that, I'm curious, what else are you seeing, Michael?
Thanks, Ryan. Funnily enough, true story, I think my son is actually in Terminal 4 at JFK at this very moment, and he just texted me this morning to say that he went through Amsterdam Airport last night, and it was an absolute train wreck because they have not yet embraced agents for making that airport run so smoothly, so I'll be interested in his feedback today. It's funny, it literally is actually there right now, so funny coincidence. So let's let's talk a little bit about another hypothesis, is that AI is not working for highly regulated industries. I'm going to tell you that it is working really well for highly regulated industries. We're going to talk a little bit about some interesting use cases, and let's start with compliance. You know, I think compliance is one of those use cases that cuts across every industry. Whenever there's an agreement, whenever there's a contract, there's a use case for compliance. But compliance has been radically transformed across lots of different industries. I hinted at one example before, but I'm going to talk about a couple more now. It's been radically transformed across all industries, whether they be regulated or non-regulated industry. Agentic workflows means that compliance management is becoming an active part of the business process, not just something that you look at as an afterthought. What am I talking about? So we move from a model where we think about something happened, was it compliant, for compliance being able to be managed in real time. And again, that's something that it manifests itself in different ways in different industries. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick examples here. In media, I mentioned this before, but we can look at compliance in real time in terms of video streams and audio streams to make sure that, for instance, profanity is one, but the correct language, or that the right information is being presented on the screen for that market in compliant with local laws and local requirements, local regulations. It can analyse, product placements and all those sorts of things in line with a contract that you might have with an organisation to deal with product placement. Retail certainly is an industry where we've seen an enormous amount of interesting use cases. Enormous amount of growth. We've seen up to 350% growth in AI solution and adoption in retail, whether it be dynamic pricing, which is really cool, where you have agents that go out and monitor, competitive pricing and make judgments and recommendations based on what the right price would be for your product looking at the P&L, looking at your revenue targets for this month, using a series of agents to be able to manage your pricing decisions, or smart supply chain, and being able to manage where you've got stock, how you should manage your discounts in what markets to be able to address what stock you have in different locations. And of course, those two things work so nicely together. Again, multiple agents looking at being able to manage your P&L versus your discount versus your competitors looking at your supply chain. There are some very interesting multi-agentic workflows in place in retail, which are super compelling, and the ROI just jumps off the table. Like, it is so easy to see because you can offset that straight onto your P&L. One of the things about retail is because that it's not regulated, there are a lot of use cases that are emerging, and a lot of new use cases. I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of those now. Agentic AI is moving super fast in these industries. We were talking, 12 months ago, if you came to reInvent, we would have been talking about Just Walk Out. We would have been talking about virtual try-on and retail. They're two great use cases, but they're pretty old hat now. Where dynamic pricing and smart and supply chain have really transformed and accelerated hugely this year. But also we're seeing interesting agentic use cases in store, and that's one that's kind of was really jumped out at me in the last couple of months, is that, for example, we've seen compliance as a use case in store to be able to manage, use cameras in store to be able to monitor the shelves and make sure that the presentation of a product is in line with the contract that they have in place with the retail outlet, or even to be able to ensure that the shelf is stocked, so that if they're running out of a certain product, the warehouse is alerted to say, oh, the shelf is looking a bit thin on this item. The compliance side of that is very compelling. So as a supplier, you can make sure that your retail outlets are correctly merchandising your product on the shelf, and it's done all in real time. In-store also comes down to things like even safety and fire codes. So monitoring using agents to manage your in-store foot traffic enables you to say, okay, have we got the maximum number of people in the store, or are we approaching that point, or in a certain part of the store, are we overcrowded? Do we need to manage the amount of people coming in at the door? Being able to manage against fire codes is, again, another great example of like real-time compliance management that's completely dynamic. One of the other interesting use cases when it comes to in-store monitoring is to be able to look at people's customers' movements inside the store. Agents can track people's movements inside the store, look at where they're dwelling in the store, what stands they're standing in front of. So that if Ryan walks up and looks at perhaps the same set of sunglasses 3 times in 10 minutes, they could say, you know what, Ryan is pretty interested in that stand of Wayfarer sunglasses perhaps, and deploy a human agent, a sales agent, to go and say, hey Ryan, are you aware that we've actually got a discount today on the Wayfarers? You might want to consider tucking a pair in your pocket and walking out with them today. This is it's a whole new use case, right? That's what I think is the most compelling about it, is really the sky's the limit. This is not a use case that even existed 12 months ago. Deploying a human out to talk to someone who's looked at a pair of sunglasses 3 times is not something we even had dreamed about 12 months ago. And customers are actually deploying this technology in retail outlets today, which is, again, super exciting. So Ryan, perhaps you want to tell us a couple of examples in more of a regulated context.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, so we set the stage of, Michael said 350% growth right now in the retail space using Agentic AI. I would love to give you a number. I'm going to talk about healthcare and life sciences, but it's growing at such a rate. We don't really have a good metric. It's literally changing month over month, but it is growing at an outpaced pace. And it's things like Philips, where Philips is literally transforming the way they go to market by creating agents that supplement everything from radiologists to medical clinics, and they've transitioned from what might take days or even weeks to get analysis on things like medical images to 5 seconds, meaning they're supplementing the radiologist, they're supplementing the pulmonologist, the cardiologist with real-time information. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like with one of their customers in just a second. But that results in a 30 times cost reduction. It results in more accurate and higher accuracy in diagnosing, and then obviously in recommended therapeutics against it. Philips has taken that concept and they've created their entire AI tool suite for all their developers, all of their engineers, and that allows them to get things out faster and more compliant so that they're built in. Their entire SDLC is built on compliant AI now, and the agents are constantly monitoring as you're building code. Are you in any violation of HIPAA requirements, of European requirements, of where are we deploying this technology? Where do we think it's going to go to production and getting ahead of that of that regulatory burden or that compliance burden? Things like surgical procedures are now more precise, and it's allowing them to do it in a more secure, more auditable and compliant way. One of my favorite examples is Moderna. So Moderna not only did something similar to what Philips was doing with all of their electronic health records and making sure that they were compliant, they went a step further. They said, I'm going to take my HR organization and my IT organization, I'm going to put them together. They created a new role, CHRO, I always forget the term, and what the CHRO does is looks across both organizations and says, how am I using AI to make my people more productive, and how am I rolling out AI so that my people are making AI more productive? They've literally combined the two organizations. Michael started this presentation by going through 3 themes. We've talked a lot about the business workflow. This is about the human-AI interaction and how we can make our workforces not just in the loop, but actually make use humans to make AI more productive. Fast forward to today. 19 out of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies globally are already deploying some sort of AWS generative or agentic AI into production. 4 of the 5 largest genomic sequencing companies in the world are using AWS or some of our partner technologies. 10 of the 10 largest medical device companies in the world already using AI on AWS. And 80% of healthcare and life sciences unicorns are already deploying some sort of AI to help their customers and leverage this. The punchline, it's our partners and our customers that are building this technology, taking advantage of Agent Core, of Bedrock, of a lot of the transform technologies to enable you, but it's really those products that our customers are then consuming to make their AI processes better. One example I'll give you right now. According to the European Lung Cancer Association, in a recent study, 54% reduced fatalities from lung cancer if detected early in the process. Cure.ai, using this technology, rolled out a set of agents with AstraZeneca, for any clinic in the United States, if your doctor says, hey, you might be at risk for lung cancer, go get a chest scan, you get that pulmonology scan today, it's the first person to look at it is not a human being at all. It's not a radiologist. It's not a pulmonologist. It's Cure.ai with AstraZeneca running a set of agents to detect early signs of lung cancer. What that does is a couple of things. One is, if you think about the life cycle of a radiologist through the course of their career, they might see hundreds or thousands of chest scans. AstraZeneca and Cure are training every one of their models on a minimum of 25 million, and sometimes many, many more, many hundreds of millions of scans. And what it not only gives them a higher level of accuracy and a higher level of predictive diagnosis, but what it does is it allows them to go back in time. I could take a chest scan of Michael's chest today, and it can compare that and say, hey, that looks like Ryan's chest scan from 5 years ago. And what did Ryan do? What therapeutic did he take? What treatment did he take? And what was the resulting outcome of that? And we can kind of take that and compare that not just to a couple of people throughout the career of a radiologist, but through thousands or even millions of people that have similar medical imaging. So with that, we turn it back to Michael. What have we learned today? We talked about a lot of things.
We talked about a lot of things. We won't be beaten on the number of customer stories, I tell you what. So that I hope that those have been extremely valuable to you. So let's pull together on some of the common threads that we've talked about through some of these great customer stories we've talked today. So it's a little bit of a startling statistic. 40% of agentic AI projects will be cancelled by the end of 2027 due to escalating costs, unclear business value, or inadequate risk controls. It's a big number. You know, when I looked at that number, I kind of have two reactions. I sort of said to you earlier, on the positive side, I think that means that people are experimenting, and that is a healthy thing. I think experimenting and not waiting for perfection before starting is kind of central to success with agentic AI particularly. Useful agents need to understand natural language, reason effectively. They need to maintain context over long interactions, and most importantly, they need to be able to do that in a trustworthy way and in a secure way. They need to integrate seamlessly with existing systems, maintaining proper authentication and authorization, and of course, they need to interact with other agents. One of the absolute foundational premises of agentic AI is that agents work well with other agents as well as humans. And we need to ensure consistent performance and scale to reduce the levels of complexity. Enterprises are doubling down on agents. So two more interesting statistics for you. 33%, again, these are Gartner statistics. So 33% of enterprise software apps will include agentic by the end of 2028, up from less than 1% in 2024, which is probably not a surprise. This one's interesting, though, that 15% of day-to-day work decisions will be made autonomously through agentic by the end of 2028. I think that's a very conservative number, actually. My personal view is it'll be much higher than that. When you think about the volume of decisions that agentic can make on a day-to-day basis, I think we're going to see that number greatly exceeded. Scale requires operational excellence. The path from POC to AI production agents and realising value is a journey. But it's not a journey that you're on by yourself, and it's a journey where we have many programs and tools to be able to make you successful. I'm going to keep it reasonably simple, but performance, scalability, security, context, governance, all of these things are central to your decision making as you go on a path of AI. Handling user identity correctly, detecting degrading accuracy, troubleshooting errors, they're all things to be taking into account. I said before that one of the most fundamental aspects that I've seen with talking to customers and partners in terms of success factors is to be fundamentally grounded in a business problem, not just the technology for the technology's sake. We talked very early in the presentation about everybody wants to be doing something with AI, feels they need to be doing something with AI. But I strongly encourage you to work from the customer problem back, from the use case back, from the business pain point back. Again, like no other technology transition that I've experienced in my life, this one is deeply ingrained in business process, not just technology on its own. What are the outcomes we're looking for? What are the employee tasks that we could consider automating? Once you have that clear business problem in mind, then you're on your way. The agentic mindset, and we have a customer-tested framework to think about working backwards from the business problem, using data as your differentiator, using trust to drive adoption, and demanding the best price and performance to enhance your environment with multi-agent architectures. Most importantly, though, that this isn't happening today. This isn't a roadmap for the future. It's happening today. And most importantly, when you think agentic, think composable. So think using an agentic architecture enables you to use more agents and integrate more agents. But most importantly, is you don't have to come up with them all yourself. Other people are building agents all the time. There is a raft of agents available for you to deploy, purchase, procure through your existing purchasing contracts with AWS in the agent marketplace. And they're specifically listed against use cases, customer problems. I thoroughly encourage you to check it out and dig deep into it. There's a new solutions page. There's lots of great stuff there. The other point I want to leave you with today is start small, but start now. Don't wait for a utopian moment to have it all figured out. Experiment and try things and pull them back. It's a good opportunity to be able to work with the tools, see what's possible, and be able to enhance your thinking by experimentation rather than, again, coming up with the utopian architecture or the utopian perspective to start with. Start small, start now. And lastly, pick the right path for you. You can buy agentic solutions and use agentic tools that are available right now through AWS. So Amazon QuickSuite, Kiro, just to name a couple. They're available for you to deploy out of your AWS account. When you're ready, go for it. You can build your own custom agents, and we've talked a lot about some of those specific use cases in industry where building custom agents again can address line of business, industry problems, new use cases, new abilities to differentiate yourselves and accelerate your customers. But those agents could be reused. You can even sell those agents to be able to help other organisations and be able to monetize the value that you drive out of building your own agents. And lastly, utilise partners for specialised expertise. We have AI competency partners, 140,000 partners in the network, and a good subset of them are pursuing AI competencies to be able to more diligently serve our customer base and be able to help customers on their journey, whether it be a consulting partner that's skilled in the art of taking business case through to production outcome, or whether it's our ISV partners who build software and agents to be able to address specific industry problems and specific challenges that customers have on AWS. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful time at reInvent this week, enjoying getting to know each other and learning. Take the time out, put the email down, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.